Shalom. Florida, what up? North Carolina, what up? Y'all can hear me? North Carolina, what up? Jaqual, what up? Y'all get ready to lock in? Get everybody in here. Starting like a few minutes, probably like 2 or 3. I hear that siren. Can you guys give me a brief recap of the previous class? Which one? Last Wednesday, Captain Shemach taught.
It's just more so going into women and not understanding them, the role and the place that they have, but him expounding into First Peter's chapter 3, their health, with the videos that he showed, Dr. Sims and the horrors he was making and committing during slavery. Is just overall going into how important it is of not just how soul ties are developed, the importance of soul, body, and mind when it comes to unionship between man and woman, but also just the importance of not putting down women as if they're just inside the house and cleaning, cooking, and taking care of children is their only job or role. And he also emphasized that the Lord has given them wisdom as well. So it's a multifold of things, but just more so on the basis of brothers understanding uh, a more in-depth analysis of the woman, and also on behalf of the fact of how much more women should be taking their well-being and their health much more seriously, and the understanding of history of the horrors of what happened to our women and what it is we can do today to overcome a lot of that.
Anybody else?
One of the most things that stood out to me was understanding the post-traumatic slave trauma uh, that women's gone through, especially with that doctor, and how that literally affects how they act today, because that's instilled in them. Not only is that instilled in them from slavery, even growing up as to dealing with having to take care of the household by themselves, especially when us Israelites was going through the 80s and the 90s with the curses, and just how society has become more of a menace to women, and what you have a product of today. Um, that's pretty much it for my end.
Guys, what is the purpose of the Bible being written? You give a simple answer, you can give a scripture, you can give whatever answer you like. Why is the Bible written?
Blueprint.
For our instruction and for our learning.
Scripture. It's Romans 15:4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Um, this book goes into a lot of depth on how to really navigate through this life, in any field, any kind of situation. It's all the answers are in this book.
What does aforetime mean?
Something that happened in the past. Something formal.
Time passed informally.
Time what?
Time passed
Time past.
previously.
Read that scripture again, Bayakala.
This is Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
Is that the only way we learn?
No.
How else do we learn?
Through experience.
Yeah.
Trial and error.
How? Remember, there's methods of learning. How?
Experience, mistakes.
Remember, you have audio, visual, and what's the last one?
Hands on.
It's the term and for it's hands on, but there's a term for it. We've gotten so far in thousands of years that it's gotten to the point and positioning of the only way we're learning is by reading. And yet, as a collective, from what I could recall, from not too long ago, the average academic reading level of Black and Hispanics has now jumped up to either 8th or ninth grade, and we used to be at a 3rd grade reading level. That means, my gosh, you just text me? That means then we're not hearing, or we gotten to the point of being so hard-headed that we had to be punished to a point where we had to use our eyes to see what is on paper to understand how we must do the things that we do on a daily. The reason why I originally asked that question is because the title of the class, How We Ought to Be, is very heavy to me because it goes against what the natural thing a man and woman chooses to do, even if you don't want to do it. Romans 7 is one of my favorites because it highlights this specific development and character. Colossians 3 and the explanation written in the New Testament, that we're to bury our old selves for the sakes of the renewing of that creature. Tonight, I'll be embracing every single question you guys will have on the topic. And if the topic requires me to be lengthy in detail, I'll make a class about it. So, as I go on tonight, I'm encouraging you all to ask questions about the things I'm going to bring out tonight. Um, so I'll keep it simple before I get deeper with the question. What is the difference between the flesh and the spirit?
Flesh is tangible, what you can see and feel.
Okay.
Spirit is intangible, you can feel it, and it's the animation of what's physically unfolding.
My
You call me
Balu.
I'll say the same thing with Rock. I believe that the flesh is more physical, um, in a sense to where you experience emotions on a whole different level. And I'll say that the spirit is something that takes faith to understand. Um, Spirit is something to where once you're in it, it's easier to communicate with the Most High. I'll say that it's your most stable form, if that makes any sense. Because when you understand the Spirit, it's like you're in a form of maturity when you make wiser decisions. I believe that also, and you see this in a lot of TV shows. When you're making a decision, there's always the good side on your right shoulder and the bad side on your left. And I believe that that's a good example of between the flesh and the spirit. The good side is the spirit, and the flesh is on the left side. So that's something that wars against each other. I think that's a good example to describe what I'm talking about.
I'm going to build off that. This is a mini tangent going on a topic and what Mahar just said. Guys, the Bible is a standard. It's a standard. For anybody who's new in the chat, what we follow is the Bible and try to follow it to the T. And where it gets muddy or difficult when you don't follow the particular pages on the book is when you're whether you're willing to compromise your comfortability on what to do and what not to do. There is never praise and worship on what's required of you. There's only praise and worship on when you're wrongfully accused of things that you haven't done. And it's what you do in those particular moments where God either blesses you or takes something away from you. If you read instances of the prophets that came before us within the Bible, whenever things were took from them, some of them were grieved. Some of them sent prayers up. Some of them fasted. Some of them prayed. And there was different instances and examples of situations that happened to them where they were either they stayed in that position that the Most High kept them in for that particular reason, or they were removed out of it for the sole purpose of our understanding of how we get different interpretations of each different story we have today that we teach. So, this is your standard. You have instructions in here. Primarily, you have Proverbs, duties, also in Proverbs, Ecclesiasticus, talking about preparing your soul. And that preparation isn't anything but the awareness level of you understanding that everything that you have allowed in your life for such a long time, or every situation you've been going about for the sakes of keeping the peace, has been potentially wrong. Or it forces a responsibility on you to where you have to deal with the things in your life that God told you to remove since the very beginning of time. All of us have been at a position of awakening at different types of walks. Then that could be this year, according to the Gregorian calendar, of course, last year, years ago, whatever have you. And growth isn't dependent on, or growth, the Most High doesn't see how long you've been in this thing as, how do I say this? How long you've been inside of this walk of understanding and your stagnancy and everything that you've done to get to this particular position and point weighs in on how much wisdom and opportunity that the Most High has given to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have been in here for about 3 years, and you haven't been necessarily doing anything but sticking at the specific position that you're in, two things could happen. You either get sifted from that position and forced to either move up or stay down, or the same repetitive cycle as I've talked about in previous classes will keep slapping you over the head. Everybody to a position overthinks past a position that isn't necessarily there. It happens to everybody, to the best of us. But some of us go so far to mentally rehearse something so heinous that has yet to come that it halts any form of movement towards potential growth. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we're going to read and start off with James to understand exactly what is being said here in context and exactly what I'm talking about. Because if you're still lost, I'm going to help you out. You can start from verse 1.
Chapter
Is
1.
that my Honda? Go ahead.
Chapter 1.
Yep. 1 1.
This is James. This is James chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting.
So, remember, this is the blueprint. If you read the Bible, understand colons, semicolons, commas, and everything else that entails the narrative, the storyline, and everything under the sun concerning the content of this book, you know that the audience will always be and spoken to in matter of salvation, behavior, how you're supposed to conduct yourself, and what to do prior to Yahushua's arrival, will always be the children of Israel. That never changes. That never changes. There's not a book in history that anybody picks from the middle of, reads to the end, and then say, "Oh, that latter half or that first half doesn't exist. That latter half doesn't exist." This is the only book where everybody nitpicks and picks and chooses what to follow. I got a mini library myself, and there's not one book I've looked at to be like, you know what? Let me start at the middle of it, see what's hitting off. Damn, now I'm only gonna read this side because that side is just older than this one. Nobody does that, but with this book. You want to know why? Do you know how easy it is to follow according to whatever, but you may have large print, smaller print, whatever have you. You know how easier it is to follow 800 pages as opposed to 1600? The less and more you know of what to do, the less responsibility and care and monitoring of self you have to actually apply in real life. So when you don't read or understand commas or understand semicolons or understand consonants and everything else under the sun of language arts and literature as well as reading, you get to read full sentences and forget the audience being talked about here. Lose all mental capacity of understanding there's a setting here, there's a location here, There's a group of people here. Oh, at times, yeah, they were called this because of that landmass and that. Oh, that happens. Yeah, he's classified as an African American in today's time because blase, blase, blase. But his original roots go back to this. All that goes out the window when we read this because everybody nitpicks and picks and chooses what they want to follow within the context of this book.
What you just said about people following 800 pages rather than 1600 pages because they choose to nitpick, it helps you understand why people do it because it's easier to not hold yourself to a higher level of responsibility.
That's why I'm asking each and every one of you. There's certain spaces, each and every one of you who are in this room, and some of you are in that chat, where there's conversations that you shouldn't be entertaining anymore for the sake of your mental health and peace. Because your tolerance level should be so high that comments such as, and I hate to say this, because there's some individuals who may not understand John 3:16 thoroughly, but John 3:16, God came to save all. Now, in context, on paper, it does look like he's talking about all. But then I would have to say, why would I jump to John 3:16 when Matthew 1 is right there, and that's the first pages of the New Testament? And even if I get to John, particularly in context of history and historical records, I would have to initially start from Genesis, and then when we get to anything prophetical, as far as history shows and aligns with any other history besides ours, the kingdoms that had the children of Israel under captivity. So, with conversations that many men entertain, I've grown to understand that some of them are either you're genuinely trying to teach the person, you have came up with information or obtained information from your individual camp just to strictly prove somebody wrong, which is also, by the way, there's a personality defect in that I'm going to discuss tonight. Or you obtain information or run off with it for the sole purpose of having conversational upliftment within yourself because you're lacking something within yourself. In other words, there's certain knowledge and information that people obtain for the sake of fulfillment of wanting to feel right within their own life. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It happens all the time. All the time. Somebody knows something and they'll freestyle it just enough to where it doesn't sound similar to somebody else's teaching. And they'll put themselves in a position as something that they're not. And then talking outside of what they learned just enough to the point where nobody picks up on it and trying to kick game to somebody else for their own personal gain.
Vain philosophies.
Huh?
Like vain philosophies.
100%. I die. You got James 1?
Yep.
Uh,
James chapter 1 and verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting.
It's both. Hold on. It's both. It's so much that goes into it. It could be manipulation. It could be for gainsay. It could be sometimes you go through like just to reel it back in. You bring in a particular experience you've had in your upbringing or a present experience. And depending on how you feel in the moment, you never want to feel that way again. So you learn just enough, if not more than that experience that affected you that much, that you again learn on top of it so that you never feel it again. And then unknowingly, either intentionally or unintentionally, doing the same thing that caused you to feel that way to somebody else. It's like the predator and prey thing. You get offended, you don't express that you're offended to the person who offended you. You internalize it. You become all that you have been concerning you being offended. And you make sure you're never put in that position. It's also like, damn, that's a good question that requires me to talk about something else. It talks about something else. Yes. It's also like, that's a layered question. Certain behaviors that you currently, I'll try to be brief. Try to be brief. Certain behaviors that you display that are anything other than what God requires of you are abnormal strictly because of experiences that you hold on to so that you no longer feel them again. It's in the brain like a defense mechanism against being vulnerable in that space against that experience again. Does that make sense?
So,
I don't. Does that make sense? Yes. Like there are situations you may come across or come across with people where yes, like a pacifier. Okay, just making sure. But yes, there's certain positions and engagements you may have with individuals. Like let's say somebody's talking over you repeatedly. Granted, I would want to, grab them by the mouth and just rip it off or punch them in their mouth if I wasn't emotionally or didn't have self-control within myself. Those aren't thoughts that I would naturally have, but I could see other individuals. Damn, I want to
oh, yeah.
punch the guy in that mouth, man. He's talking over me like that, man. That could be a person who has a million thoughts a minute and he has to vocalize everything that comes out of his mouth. That could be somebody who necessarily didn't have the mouthpiece growing up because he was told to keep quiet all the time. It can mean a bunch of things. But there's many behaviors behind multiple past experiences you kind of got to be considerate of whenever you presently engage with what's in front of you. But yeah, that's one of the many examples. One of the many examples. It goes into like a whole lot. Go ahead, bro.
James chapter 1 and verse 2. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations.
Count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. Can you give me 1 Peter 2:19, please? Somebody give me 1 Peter 2:19. Now, now, how much of us count it all joy when we go through diverse temptations? I do and don't. Not even gonna sit here and cap. Be 100% honest with you. I dislike curveballs.
Yep.
I dislike curveballs, but I do understand what I must do in the moment of curveballs. Give you an example. There are times where I respond to a particular call where I'm expected of something happening according to what I heard over the radio, but then it turns into something completely different. Or it's something far worse than what I heard over the radio. There's times where I'm responding at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 in the morning, to something that I would assume would be lift them up, put them on the couch, lift her up, put her on the couch, this, that, and third. Ellipsis, and it turns into something completely different to where I can no longer sleep now. That wouldn't be a necessarily temptation, that would be a trial. It's a response to the trial and how I react to it and what I do to alleviate what I physically see during, before, and after the incident. And diverse temptations is nothing more than various trials.
I feel like when you say count it all joy, like the joy comes after what you received out of it after going through it.
You have that. There's times where you get informed of something, and all you do, it's a habit at this point, is laugh. Because if you don't laugh, you'll probably be upset. You'll feel away for a long time. There's just certain things that you have to laugh off. You have to laugh off. Like there's questions that I've heard. They're not stupid questions, but I've heard people be adamant on stances and certain positions that are funny. Like one of the funniest things that I've heard so far on me living on a planet is saying that the 12 tribes of Israel are only Negroes. That's one of the funniest things I generally heard. Like, first I laughed at it and I got angry. Because it's a moronic stance, but I understand where that spirit comes from. That still doesn't take away from it being moronic. So I laugh at stances like that. I laugh at different types of stances. So count it all joy is really in the positions you're in as far as various trials, bills. What can you do about bills, bro? Like,
Hey,
that's it. That's it. Bills, extensions on phone bills, rent. Don't gotta go to the bank to the 15, y'all. If y'all want to wait, let me see. Let me help you out with y'all cycles. When's the next Friday? 24th? 31st is after that? I'm gonna help y'all out. Give me a second. All right, Friday. The next Friday is 31st, right? Y'all get paid bi-weekly. You know what y'all could do? Y'all could pay them like, depending on how much you get paid. If y'all get paid on Friday, y'all could pay on the 24th, and then the bi-weekly people don't get paid again to the 7th. So you got 2 weeks roughly to pay that rent. If you're not able to do that, and you get paid weekly, save it in increments. Natural problem of situations is overexpending and doing much more than what we actually have. Natural thing. Majority of our complaints come from the things that we overuse that we're not supposed to be, and living above our means. And nobody likes hearing that because from the position of disagreement or trying to play the devil's advocate, you got to hold the person accountable to, well, let's see, do you actually need that? How often do you use this? What'd you get that one for? Why are you doing that? Why you get this? Damn, did we tell you not to do that before you did it anyway? I remember us talking to you years ago about that situation. Why didn't you listen? I don't have a problem being that guy. But you have to remember, in any situation that we all put ourselves in, there was always one person in your ear telling you to do contrary to it, or to see through other options behind the decision you ultimately made, if you put yourself in a hole. That's how it works. There's almost, and I would assume everybody that's listening has one person in their ear telling them to hold off, to wait, do this and that, or plan it out before you abruptly make a irrational decision that you'll pay for later on. You have to think long term instead of short term emotionally, especially now. Especially now. You got First Peter 2.
2:19.
Mm-hmm.
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 19. For this is thankworthy if a man for conscience toward God endure grief, suffering wrongfully.
Say it again, please.
For this is thankworthy if a man for conscience toward God endure grief, suffering wrongfully.
This is the only thankworthy thing we're worthy of and get honor in. How we act in wrongdoing. Patience literally means suffering. We have to be content sufferers. That's literally it. And it's what you do and how you react and how often you call unto the Lord that He looks out every single time. Because nobody can't say that He hasn't looked out for each and every one of you. Nobody. Even how much times you have backslid, God has always looked out. We personally dig our own holes so deep, and God still gives us rope to crawl out of it. Can't tell me that's not a gracious man. Can't. We will literally not listen to each other as men, for us to be comfortable with the conditions of suffering and turn to God for advice. I need to come up with a term for that. I feel like all of them are used. Stiff-necked is used. Hard-headed is used. It's like we enjoy suffering and pain and don't seek to do right, only but for a period of time. Like these conversations about what we do, what we're supposed to do, how to prove this, we're that, are constant repetitive for the sakes of continuing in them to teach the next people, to teach the next group of individuals growing up. All of us, I would assume, I don't have any, have children, have nephews, have nieces. All of you have kids. I'll be the uncle taking care of every single one of them. But the point I'm initially making is you have a responsibility of pages that you need to follow to the T, or else you will suffer trying to bend and break what God is making simple. He asks you to behave, take care of the widow and the fatherless, and give back to your people. And you know where we're falling short of actually putting in the work to do that? We're not giving back enough. The more you give back, the more defeated you feel. Think about it. And that's why often it looks as if you're not doing enough or you're not doing enough. And once you feel like you started, you'll feel defeated. God doesn't make you feel victorious after teaching. And whoever feels like that genuinely, it's only for a moment, for inspiration, for you to keep going. But long term, the long term effect of that is you have to keep doing it to where it becomes repetitive over and over and over and over again until he tells you his work is finished. You get momentary glimpses of victory when you teach somebody and wake them up. I'm not taking that away from anybody. That's 1,000% true. But the more and longer you continuously do this, the work becomes grieving over time because of your awareness level to how destroyed your people actually are. You don't believe me? Go to camp for years on end, give out, teach, do all that years on end, and genuinely tell me how you feel without saying, I didn't feel like I did anything, or I feel like I ain't doing enough. The harvest is plenty because it never ends until the Lord tells you it's up. You are on a this is the only job where the shift doesn't end. You get paid. Not gonna lie, and that chicken is good. Can't cap. You get paid, but it's not in the rewards or pay stubs that you expect to come out. It's never like that. It's never like that. The intention, I'm with you 1,000% with the intention. But your awareness level as this goes on out and as darker as the world gets, it will feel in moments like you're not doing enough. Like we know our mantra and our common mantra is we'll never do enough. That's our common mantra. But there's a difference between saying it and actually feeling it, to where it actually gut punches you and it hits you. There's a difference in when you can see that you have food for the people in front of you and you actually feel for the people in front of you. Because there's only so much you can do and help them in that particular moment of helping them with assistance and food and actually teaching them, because some of them like to be there. Some of them don't want to be there. And hearing their stories and everything else plays a large factor in there's so much shit I got to do. That's what I'm speaking to. The intent is always there. But if you really pay attention to how much you actually have to do, your occupation other than your slave job that you do in the world shouldn't be anything else but this. Read that again, 2:19.
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
For this is thankworthy if a man for conscience toward God endure grief, suffering wrongfully.
If you're willing to endure the pain undeserved, I want you to know God looks at that. All of us has been wrongfully accused. You know what's wrongfully accusations? Assumptions. Remember I showed y'all the law of presumptuous the other day? I mean, like a couple weeks ago? That's a law. How much times I get broke? Every day. Being assumptuous, wrongfully accused of something you don't do. I hate assumptions. I hate them. Especially when something that you don't do. You know what they do to gaslight you? If you ain't do it, why you get mad at it? Man, I don't like lying as is or lies as is. So when you're accusing me of something I dislike the fact that you're lying. Of course I'm gonna get angry.
Okay.
What? Verse 20, bro.
For what glory is it if, when ye be buffeted for your faults, ye shall take it patiently?
Right. There's a difference between your own mistakes and you take it patiently. You can suffer in your own mistakes. There's a difference. You're more tolerable than your own mistakes than you are the mistakes that you have no control of. It's easy. You know what comes with the wins and losses and whatever have you, the pros and cons of anything you put your hand to do. What about things you're not in control of? Let me ruffle some feathers real quick. How much you guys are family people? You love your family and everything else? To gut punch every single one of us who are family people and family members. To remind you all, you can't be there for everybody. Your absence is showing in yourself, and you're spreading yourself thin to whoever needed to hear that. It's reflecting in your personal performance within yourself. You don't believe me? Check your heartbeat. Check how you take care of yourself in the morning. Check how you check in with yourself. How you talk to yourself. You too busy trying to be everybody else, trying to be for everybody else but yourself. God said that you be for yourself first and then perform for everybody else. How you trying to build somebody else's house up and your crib ain't even built yet? It's completely gutted. And here in this present day, we're doing the exact opposite of trying to establish everybody else's household except for ours. And when our household is established, we trying to fix up everybody's water main breaks and everything else going around. When God told you there's specific connections and relationships you keep at arm's length. before you put yourself in a position deeper than what they already are. And where we try to fight that is, that's my family member. There's a balance in it, but when you know that you're spreading yourself thin and you feel like you're spreading yourself thin, it's time to regroup and get back to where you were originally standing on. Because if it isn't your own grass, get yourself on your own grass.
To regroup and detach. Detach and regroup, whichever comes first.
Don't become emotionally attached to relationships that God didn't require you to be in and hurt yourself in the long run because you refuse to listen. It stings harder. And God don't make you forget it. You got that?
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 20.
Mm.
For what glory is it when ye be buffeted for your faults, ye shall take it patiently. But if, when ye do well and suffer for it, ye take it patiently, this is acceptable with God.
If you want to endure the pain, just understand suffering. The glory is literally in the patience and the suffering outside your wrongdoings. You know how easy it is to emotionally calculate how you'll feel if you take wrong or if you mess up? Like, all of you know me in the room to know there's only a certain level I'm going to take it. Of like yelling at you if you're wrong or telling you, yo, bro, don't do that again. Or saying, come on, bro. Like, you guys know me. What about somebody who doesn't know you? He might bark on you, might talk crazy to you, anything. He might get disrespectful. He might trigger something that pissed you off a decade ago. You can't display that same reaction that happened to you years ago in that particular present moment is what God's trying to show you. Because there's going to be experiences outside of your boundaries that you will be tested on. And you must hold your character as if you're in those current boundaries outside of those whenever you walk outside of your comfortability zone. There's going to be positions and reactions that are required of you to do and perform at all times. You know what they call it today? Professionalism. On and off the job. You display your behavior as a professional because you're a representation of who?
Christ.
So you repeat that all across the board. Keep going, bro.
But if, when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently, this is acceptable with God. For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps.
Christ was wronged. Boy, we know all the examples. From him being spat on, hung on a tree, and everything else. And the reaction was perfect and response was perfect to each and every one of them. How many of us honestly fall short to that? I do.
Definitely.
Hey, yo, who the fuck?
Right off the impulse.
It's a natural reaction to correct somebody who's testing you or doesn't know you. As a man. Like, who the you know what I'll do to you? Those thoughts immediately come. You know what I'll do to you? I'm not about to sit here and tell you to turn the other cheek. I can't do it. Not gonna lie. And I'm almost 1,000% positive that's not what Christ is talking about inside that scripture. So I don't know where they came up with that ideology from. I just want each and every one of you to know that there are particular situations to where before it even gets to the extent to where you're responding in that matter, remove yourself from that situation because you don't belong in that space anyway. Now, to the hypothetical person who's going to ask, what if you're in that situation? Again, there's a way you communicate out of that animosity so that it immediately diffuses itself. And if you don't have that communication ability, then you're going to fall into what we just talked about, to that hypothetical question. because somebody's going to ask it. And that thought process in itself has to be unwired within your own brain. You don't want to always ask for preparation and it going south when you're constantly prepared for it mentally going uphill. Stay away from contrary thinking against positivity, because the more you prepare for negativity, the more you won't have a grips on life and what positivity could look like within yourself. You know how easy it is to immediately think contrary to, yo, I got a pizza tomorrow, and you say something like contrary to us bringing me talking about pizza, or you say something to where, nah, we got this going on, that going on, this and the third, and you talk about something else contrary to the actual content of the conversation, or something that don't got nothing to do with what everybody pitching in. Like, bro, what are you talking about? It takes the energy out of the actual topic of conversation by you inserting something that has nothing to do with the topic. You ever met somebody like that? Like y'all chilling, y'all talking about something, on y'all building on something, and somebody asks something immediately, you just, what are you talking about? It happens. Like buzzkills, but you just have to be communicatively engaged in the right sense and learn how to communicate and have the right engagement ability to know how to respond to each and every matter. Having an answer to everything is literally a real thing. A real thing. I do it all the time while I'm at work. Y'all know the fire department primarily up here is a bunch of white people. Know how easy it is to immediately respond to them? It's so easy. I think I'm the only black person there.
You are.
And the darkest one there. You know how easy it is to talk my shit? In the matter of speaking from a position of this and who I am. Can't gainsay nothing against me. Number one, when you become this, nobody can, because you're a representation of what we're all even in existence of. Except you're the greater light of it, because they don't have it. They don't follow it. Keep reading.
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 22. Who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. Who, when he was reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself.
Boy, when you suffer a little bit, come on, bro. Like, damn, what the Start swearing. Start talking crazy. Shit happened. Low air tire. Get into an accident. Wasn't even your fault either. Yo, my bad, man. I was trying. Bank account negative. How about this one? Withdrawals coming out your account days before the initial date is supposed to come out of. You just gotta laugh. Cars getting hacked, accounts getting hacked, bank telling you they might be able to give you money, they might be able to. Check getting held, money short. What can you do but laugh? Seriously. Because if you do anything contrary to just laughing and just, all right, bet. Remember, it's in the situations that you're not in control of that will test how you will react to the situations that you are in control of, that you will get rewarded for, according to your reactions. I'll give you guys a perfect example. I'm aware that racism exists. But if it gets talked about around me, if people who aren't like my skin, my tribe, and of my nationality, I laugh. Because, for one, you're calling me what would be, now it doesn't happen to me, never. because if it did, I'll just get off shift and find the person myself. But if it happened, you're calling me black and I'm a variation of brown, so I'm gonna laugh, and then you're speaking from a position of anger. Why? Why? Because physically I'm greater than you guys. Mentally, emotionally, you guys are just rapidly declining. So why would I need to be angry at somebody who's jealous of me? I don't express that to that what would be racism or me seeing it, but I would laugh at it if it was to ever encounter me. Like if somebody, it happened to me. I was driving in Long Island, about towards Long Island, a couple weeks ago, and somebody cut me off and then said it. I just laughed. Yeah, exactly like that. Like, I just laughed. That shit was mad funny. Like I dead ass laughed. I was like, what the fuck? And I drove away. It's funny. I'm not in control of that, but me laughing at it is an example of what am I supposed to do? Drive after him? Even Grandpa, him being the wisest, smart aleck on the planet. I'm not in control of how he responds, but how I react to it. So, did you finish verse 23 and 24?
No. Verse 23. Who, when he was reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judgeth righteously. Who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead to sins, should live unto righteousness.
So how do we ought to be? Same thing. And I ain't about to sit here and tell you it's easy because it isn't. Because we was raised on an upbringing to do contrary to what Christ did in these pages. To almost immediate react to wrongdoings. You know where that comes from? How much you was told when y'all was little? If somebody looks at you wrong, put your hands on him. Or the minute he swings, swing back. I got expelled for it, but you know. Could I have diffused the situation looking back on it? Sure. But in my young mind, I didn't want to look like in high school. So, unfortunately, in that moment, mentally, I did what I thought was the right thing to do. Got kicked out, but you know, there's going to be a lot of situations that we all undergo and have gone through and are currently going through. Some of you may be arguing with your boss, going back and forth with your PTO, your vacation, not liking how your manager makes the schedules, or specifically trying to stay away from that particular coworker who annoys you, talks too much, always condescending, smokes, don't have no substance, no life in them, no substance, just living, stinks, you know? Or on the other side, because that's just this side doesn't get talked about, the lustful side of you practicing self-restraint and self-control, you and parameters of seeing and looking at things you're not supposed to be doing on your private time or in public, having the opportunity to do wrong and falling short every single time. We're not even gonna call it falling short anymore. You're choosing to do it, to stay prone at that moment. Every opportunity to do right, you continuously fall and do wrong. All these things happen. And if you are doing it purposely, get help. Get help. But to the practitioners, I understand how difficult it can be to immediately not want to reverse punch somebody in the face for being disrespectful. I'm right with you. I'm right with you. Just people who's gonna test you guys gangster. Cool. The old man, I get it. I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But self-restraint now is required now more than ever. Now more than ever. Because we in the midst of, because there's a whole lot of darkness going around right now. Like dark. And self-restraint is the only thing that can perfect you and create you into what God requires you to be in this particular time. Each year, our captives celebrate a new year. They make it 10 times harder. If you guys have been paying attention. Everybody, from what I've seen on the news, is bugging about that Trump law that he just, what's it called?
Which one, the child support one?
No, there's a new one.
Oh, the revoking of the 1965.
He just revoked a 1965 law that everybody's bugging out about.
Equal opportunity.
Now, if you read it, people in positions of state officials, stuff like that, they could use it to their advantage to make it inclusive to particularly their people. And the many other laws he just passed that you guys need to pay attention to. Ears up, eyes up, stay on alert. And as the time goes on in this Gregorian calendar, please practice self-restraint in all things that aren't godly. And everything that is of godliness. Keep going, bro. Go back to James.
James chapter 1, verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing.
That she may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. What is perfect? Perfect is nothing more in context other than complete. Because you know what that breeds? It's another C word. Contentness. And we lose sight of contentness when we use these. You go on Instagram, Facebook. We even use apps outside of those two primarily apps that we use to see feeds and lifestyles and hearing other things contrary to what we actually indulge in our private lives or public or lives itself, and start wanting more than what we already have, and we lose sight of the foundation that we built in the first place.
I'll read this.
Go ahead.
This is perfect. This is G5046. James chapter 1 and verse 4 says, but let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. G5046 is teleos. In the Strong's definition, it says various applications of labor, growth, in mental and moral character.
Say it again.
It says in various applications of labor, growth, mental and moral character.
One second. Now, That's some heavy understanding right there. Basically, for the sakes of it, I want to remix that definition in talking about, and what we're going to talk about, I think, later on in this chapter, is not wanting in anything, being appreciative of everything, stacked up on gratitude, learning how to receive emotional compliments from others outside of yourself, and stop pressing forward another thing. This is a constant thing too that I'm guilty of, so I have to express it because I know I'm not the only person who feels like this. As you press forward in growth, please do not forget to emotionally indulge in the accolades that you have received while you're pressing forward, and actually sit there for a moment and appreciate them before you move on to the next task. Part of that comes from put what in the chat? The definition of that in the chat. Okay. Part of that comes from, not necessarily receiving. We all haven't received, compliments, um, a congratulations, good job, I'm proud of you, from our parents as much as we should have. And it kind of reflects in our work ethic of not actually in our private lives and personal lives receiving it from our close friends and brotherhood and sisterhood, of not knowing how to honestly receive compliments because of our upbringing. So, as a precaution, dial back a bit as you obtain achievements. Take honor in them for the sakes of how far you came, and use that as a reflective moment, as inspiration for you to keep moving forward. Not so much so to where you lose the emotional compassion to actually embrace what's in front of you. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. Was you finished reading that?
Thank you.
Go.
Verse 4. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing.
And that definition just laid it spot on. Spot on. Go ahead.
If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not.
Anything that wasn't for the sole purpose of what Barack just broke down as far as the definition goes, when hasn't God looked out for each and every one of us? Can't say he didn't. Especially for the sole purpose of the perfect work and wisdom in Christ. Go ahead.
And upbraideth not, and it shall be given him.
Mm-hmm.
But let him act in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea driven.
Nothing wavering, nothing unsure of. Don't pray and wave at the same time. You got to pray in confidence. We went over and continuously talk about how to pray. Part of that is being confident in receiving anything that the Lord gives you, even if it's not that thing that you're asking for. I'm not going to go as far and be superstitious and say he gave you something else contrary to what you initially asked for. I'm not going to do that. That's your personal prayer. Whatever you ask for and whatever you receive in that moment or time period or whatever he gifts you is for your understanding. And whatever you share with me, I'll get the understanding from it when you break it down to me. That's you and him's personal conversation. And whatever you disclose to me, I'm appreciative of. Go ahead, Brock.
For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed.
Don't be like that. Don't ask for something and then be like, nah, I ain't about to get it, man. And we do it. We pray, man. I hope I get all that this time, man. I hope this and third. And now it looks farther than that initial scheduled time you would like to be out of. But then it just happens. Damn, man. I count negative. How the hell am I gonna get it positive? I got just saying third. Damn, I really got to come out my pocket. Blah 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 blah. And it happens. The reason why I keep giving examples is money is because everybody can relate. Nobody gonna say, "Nah, I don't got the bro." Please, please, everybody can relate. So that's one of the greatest examples I use as far as feeling like, damn, I'm kind of short on this and third. Now I'm gonna have some, and then God look out every time. Damn, I'm gonna be able to make that time period. I hope I just had. Oh, nah, I looked out. Whatever is a personal boundary inconvenience to you, God works outside of it and provides for you. He don't work in your boundaries and confines of what you think He can provide for. That's why He's out of our existence and yet in it at the same time. He don't operate under our confinements of what He created us to do and follow and operate. He operates outside of us. He just gave us guidelines and rules and regulations and procedures to follow under the created guidelines that He set before us. Go ahead, bro.
For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord.
And then, after you ask for it, don't assume that you're going to receive it. Now, I'm going to get it this and the third. Nah, I've been, nah, this and, nah, I'm good. You ever ask for something and you didn't get it till years later? I did. I did a couple times. Yeah, man, I'm about to get in. This and, I mean, I'll be good. Now, I'm going to get in with, don't happen. Nope. 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 Y'all want to know something? You know how much time it took me to get my EMT license? You know how much time I had to take that test?
It's a long time.
4 times. You want to know why? Because I was half-assing. I wanted to teach while studying. And I didn't properly balance it until I got out the 4th time because I realized what I was doing. God always going to be first before any of this. But I finally created the balance. The passing score was a 950. You know what I got the 3rd time? I said, all right, let me stop playing around. A 945.
Damn.
I laughed. I laughed. You guys go or you guys come up. They will tell you. Like, yeah, man, I'm just studying, man. He's like, yo, we gonna get this shit, man. Let's go, man. Every single time. How you do? Fail, bro. Try it again. And we just die laughing. Cause I didn't take But same thing. But once I got it, I became more marketable to the world. Then offers got sent out. Oh, grab them. Gotta cut your beard, bro. Alright. Damn, why we gotta cut our beards? Then I found out why I gotta cut my beard. Because if I grow it, I could die. Under the equipment that I wear. All of it's 120 pounds, but if I put it on and I have a beard and this, that, third, and it doesn't stick to my face, I immediately have cancer and I die. To anything burning right in front of me. Because all we have around us is plastic. You know what plastic gives off? A bunch of toxic fumes. And the minute you inhale that under a specific amount of degrees, you're dead. Now, I'm in the position I'm in, but it's something that I prayed for years ago, and I got it all together probably like a year and like 3 months ago. I've been asking for this for like a good 2019, since 2019. Certain prayers that you guys will ask for, you'll get it years later. And from experience, certain prayers that you guys are requesting or certain requests that you guys make are solely dependent on your behavior and what you're doing to put yourself in the position of the receiving of that prayer. All in the while, remembering that don't be assumptuous and assuming that you're going to get it. Go ahead, bro.
James chapter 1 and verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted.
So, brothers in low degree. There are positions that brothers have that, granted, make them exalt for the sole purpose of how far they came. Same thing I was just explaining and expressing. And it's necessary because if you don't have that, you'll become a workhorse, completely emotional absence of what it is to emotionally indulge in achievement. Women too. You don't want to be blind or you don't want to be emotionally absent for the sakes of physical fulfillment. Because when you get to certain positions that you want to be at, it don't feel real or it don't feel like you actually accomplished it. You ever get to a point and position of where you're at in life where you get somewhere and it don't feel, well, it does feel satisfying, but it feels short-lived satisfyingly? Am I bugging? Like you've gotten somewhere to where you wanted to be and it doesn't feel emotionally attaching as it was when you thought about getting there. To where your emotional high is strictly based on the road of getting there rather than the destination. The only the only way I would approve of that, or I would want you to actually indulge in that, is towards this race in Christ. That would be the only balance. You have to have the emotional indulgence and inspiration, not motivation because it comes and goes, but the inspiration as well as James and what we're going into to indulge in that emotional behavior continuously. Because anywhere else, it's not fulfilling within yourself unless it's in Christ. Go ahead.
Verse 10. But the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass he shall pass away. For the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withereth the grass, and the flower thereof falleth, and the grace of the fashion of it perisheth.
So, go ahead before I continue.
So also shall the rich man fade away in his ways.
So now, you'll be on a position of a high and a position of a low. There may be times where you are necessarily up, and there's times where you're necessarily down. The point of the context in this particular, it's an analogy. It's an analogy. And you have to understand in this particular analogy that in context, we have an established inheritance in heaven. It's a given. And we're going to read it. But in positions of shifting comes with difficulty. And your reaction, how you react to it, and your places and positions of where you are in those current moments have to be defined by how you react to them. And you have to do the right thing each and every time you're in the positions of high and low. The analogy is just given so you understand that the rich man and the poor man are in positions of being raised and being lowered and what they ought to be in the moments of those particular shifts. Go ahead, Brock.
Verse 12. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him.
A promise. Lord don't break his promises. We might break ours a little bit. Might break ours. I ain't even gonna lie to you. But the Lord don't break his promises. The Lord has houses and homes set and waiting for us. That got to be trumped and looked at continuously over him saying, shall I find faith on the earth? And I believe there's only one scripture that I could recall where the Lord said he pleased with you to follow after him. He pleaded with man. Kawan probably got it. But I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's only one scripture. So with these positions that he's given you, prior to us physically being in his presence, that he already has prepared for you, we have to do right. For the sake of the rewards that aren't physically in front of us, but they're there for us long term. That is the first recognition you should immediately wake up to, it, recognizing this. Our Creator is thinking long term for us. Let us follow pursuit, because the rewards here aren't worth what's thereafter. We got to be the living proof of what is best comes for us is in heaven, not on earth. But we will imitate heaven and live righteously on earth, according to the things that are written within the Bible. Go ahead, Brock.
Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man.
On God. Like, please, yo, the mistake on, listen, hold on. Before I continue. I understand we make mistakes, guys. But please stop the mantra of Lord knows my flaws, man. Lord knows me, man. Please, bro. Please. Please. That doesn't that doesn't prohibit like anything. Like you have a manual and a standard that God tells you to do. Everybody, you know what I love about this book? Whether you believe in it or not, everybody was taught right and wrong. Everybody. So, with you knowing right and wrong, stop saying in the confinements of error for the sakes of finding safety in sin. There's no safety in sin. You age horrible. You look aged. You age. I'm telling you right now, sin has such a power on deterioration that you look older than what you actually are.
19.
Look at white people.
He looked 31. That's not a compliment.
What?
No, there's a judge. She was speaking to a young lady, and like she was telling her, like she said, "You're 19. You look 31." That's not a compliment. It was hilarious.
Nah, that's crazy. Cooked is crazy. Yeah, guys, errors aren't personality traits. Alcoholism isn't a personality trait. Smoking isn't a personality trait. Vaping isn't a personality trait. Smoking cigarettes isn't a personality trait. Smoking blacks isn't a personality trait. Am I missing others? Overthinking isn't a personality trait. I don't want to keep hype. I don't want to keep emphasizing trauma because there's certain experiences that aren't trauma. Like stop using that. Using a term trauma as a blanket term isn't a personality trait.
Or they say trauma response.
Don't piss me off. Am I missing any? Overthinking, anxiety.
They take one to the extreme. Come on.
Cutting people off.
Oh, when people say they smoke weed, calm down their anxiety. It's like, come on.
Let's talk. Let's talk for a minute.
Yo,
Anxiety. Anxiety comes from snippets of overthinking. This isn't the actual definition. I'm pondering on it now. Anxiety comes from snippets of experiences and overthinking and fear. So when you mix all those together, along with many other things, and you come with the concoction of anxiety, I'm asking you, each and every one of you, slow your brain down. Tell yourself in your head to relax. Breathe.
Get a grip on yourself.
Yeah, what are people saying? Get a grip, bud. Relax. Breathe. Inhale slowly. And ask yourself a couple of questions like, what is going on right now?
It's really fear.
Start with that one.
That's simple.
Why am I feeling like this? And if your brain immediately goes to something of past experience, you have to have the ability to rebuke yourself. Is that past experience in this present moment? No. Is it familiar? Could be. That's not what you're telling yourself, though. Don't romanticize a past experience that happened prior to what you're presently feeling and dramatize it as if it's currently there. For individuals who use it for medicinal purposes, you have magnesium spray. You can spray the bottom of your feet and your shoulders to immediately relax you. I use that. It's very good. I don't have anxiety though. It just helps me go to sleep because I don't sleep like that. Magnesium be hitting.
Being in that field, I honestly don't see a lot of
Breathing exercises.
people that
Inhaling like 4 seconds in, holding it for 7 seconds, exhaling for 8 seconds, and then doing it all over again. So, then holding it and exhale for 8 seconds. Slowing your heart rate down.
Some people
Breathe.
don't even realize that they're actually breathing, like their mind.
And some people, yes.
There's,
You're going throughout the day. Good. Mayakala made an excellent point. Some people, like we work sometimes, and I caught myself doing it when I used to work at FedEx. There's days and there's times where I don't even check when I'm breathing. And there's times where I'm breathing like
Yeah.
and I don't catch myself holding my breath, that I'm holding my breath. You have to be conscious of, am I breathing? Am I breathing okay? How am I feeling? Like I'm good on all my senses, this and third. Don't become so robotically like in your daily habits to where you're not conscious of every single thing that you're doing, you're feeling, you're seeing. Become aware of your surroundings and more importantly yourself. You have some?
I wanted to say, you saying that like those of us that work jobs that are physically demanding, like sometimes you won't realize that you're not breathing or pacing your breath as you should be, and the shortness of breath increases your heart
I
rate.
got a job where it forces me to.
And
Y'all
then,
lucky.
And then from
I got
there,
a
like that's what, like if you already have anxiety, you already have thoughts like that, it doesn't help the way you're mentally functioning and only makes it worse.
y'all so lucky, boy. You know what? If any of you have anxiety, let me know. I'll give you a mask and an O2 tank, and I'll get rid of your anxiety. Make you breathe. It's a 45-minute cylinder. You work on it, get rid of all the anxiety, claustrophobia, all that. But some of those, unfortunately, are from our forefathers' experiences that genetically got passed down to us. It was a class that Shamak spoke on last Wednesday. So, us in our present, if they're not identifiable from, oh, I got that from my parents, or I got that from my grandparents, we must overcome the things that were passed down on to us in this very facet of today.
Stop wearing it like a badge.
Yes. Our imperfections in our family trees need to stop being worn as clothing and need to be put off for the sake of putting on the righteous clothing of Christ. Like,
Like they want to keep themselves
you cannot stop holding on to personality. There's no honor. There's no public, and I think there's no public perception of like palliative personality traits that you're holding on to that everybody in the world sees that you need to display. Your public profile of personality traits and what you display on your behavior for the world to see, nobody cares about. Because then when somebody actually has the opportunity to get to know you one-on-one, they'll realize you're actually, in modern day vernacular, cooked. You don't bring actual substance to yourself. If you don't have actual personal substance or internal substance within yourself or working on yourself as an individual, why put on a persona in a public setting or public display as if you got it all together? That's backwards. This is why we have conversations about 50-50, this, that, and the third, and all that other nonsense. And majority of those people having them conversations cannot even hold an intellectual conversation. They could only recycle about 3 to 4 topics. Go ahead, bro.
James chapter 1 and verse 13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man.
From God. Go ahead.
But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust.
His what?
Of his own lust.
His and her own lust. God don't got nothing to do with that. And if they are drawn away from it, what does God do? He gives them up to it. Go ahead.
Sarach chapter 15 and verse 11.
Yo, I was looking for that. If it is what I think it is, I've been looking for that shit. I didn't find it. I was so angry. Go ahead.
Yep. Say not thou, it is through the Lord that I fell away.
Yes. Say it again for the top, please.
Say not thou, it is through the Lord that I fell away. For thou oughtest not to do the things that he hated. Say not thou, he has caused me to err, for he hath no need of the sinful man. Verse 20. He hath commanded no man to do wickedly, neither hath he given any man license to sin.
That's just the way I am, man. That's just me. I can't change. For those of you, because some of you have friend groups like that. For those of you, and you're not going to tell me, of course. For those of you who have those friend groups who don't change, you know why Amos 3 and 3 is there? Because there's only going to be so much to where you run into a roadblock with the person who has that particular personality trait, to where you're going to have to meet them at the crossroads. There's a certain spaces and positions you should be in, and you shouldn't be in. And that would be one of them, where where somebody is adamantly telling you that they can't change. Everybody's adaptable to change. Everybody can change. Everybody. Non-believers, believers, everybody can change. Everybody. So when you're under the impression or you believe that you can't change because of you not wanting to, because that's where it comes from, God will give you a reason. God show everybody a reason to change. And it's sad to even get to that point, but trust me, one thing God gonna do is make sure you change if he wants you to change, whether you like it or not. And he'll put you in a position to where you have no choice. That's the greatest part. All while you complain and rejoice him in the same breath. It's like, damn, God, you really have to. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because if you wasn't in this predicament, then you wouldn't have changed. Go ahead.
James chapter 1 and verse 15. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death.
Sin is so powerful, bro, that it before it really kills you, it wounds you, makes you feel sick, guilty, low. Any wrongdoing, I kid you not. Am I yawning or am I gonna sneeze? Which one? What the hell? Any wrongdoing, I kid you not, bro, will make you feel like crap. I promise you. If you're a spiritual person in Christ and you make that error, you will feel low momentarily. Sometimes it's longer than moments. It's the whole day. Until you confess it to another brother. Ask me how I know that.
That shit feels like we locked up.
I'm the perfect example of errors because I want you guys to know I messed up a million times just for you guys not to do exactly what I'm telling you. So let me be the example of telling you guys that I messed up countless of times and I wouldn't want you to repeat any of the errors I'm using as examples so that you guys learn after them. Just because I'm in this chair and position does not mean I'm not a person who is messed up. I'm sharing each and every one of experience I have with you guys for the sole purpose of learning opportunities so that you go within yourselves and be like, you know what? Yashiyah did this, so I'm not gonna lie, I ain't about to do that. And vice versa. That's how it goes. Go ahead.
James chapter 1 and verse 16. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above,
Mm-hmm.
and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his
You
creatures.
know, we still not defined, but yet and still, this is the first time I'm looking at creatures in context as a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. And where we fall short into becoming beasts as opposed to being beautiful creatures is when we let the environment play a large part in what tempts us, what we hear and what we listen to, what we pay attention to, how often we speak to one another. And that got to be emphasized continuously because it should be done all the time and often. To where there's sometimes where I catch myself talking to a brother, so I call him, I call him my nigga. Or I speak to him as if he's like Barack, or I speak to him as if he's Mahayar, or I speak to him as if he's Mayak Allah, or Shamak. It's a common thing where your relationships with one another evolve into, nah, this is really my brother, bro. And if he fall out, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to take him out in a friendship way, but a dead serious friendship way. Like if you fall out, I'll really put hands on you. Like I get threatened all. I jokingly be like, nah, I'm about to, but it happens to where I get threatened. I'm not. I can't go nowhere. I'm not going anywhere because I love doing this and I love what I do. Edomite's favorite phrase I've heard thus far, that's it's growing on me, is if you do what you love every day or something like that, you won't see it as a job or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. If you do something you love every day, you won't see it as a job. This isn't a job to me. It's one of my favorite things to do. One of my favorite things to do. Notice like making people laugh, feeling related to them when they mess up, and you tell them, "Damn, I just did that 2 weeks ago," and we start dying laughing because he's not the only person. You paid that bill late too? Like, my account negative something, bro, and we start dying laughing. You know what it's like when somebody's having a bad day and you give them news far worse than what they're going through, and you start laughing with them, and then tell them, "No, I'm be all right, bro." I'm like, "Damn, are you good?" "Yeah, I'm straight. Negative 300, but we good, bro. Let's move." Y'all got to be tight knit with one another here, man, because it saves a lot of initial reactions. Yes, that is a quote. It saves the initial reactions you want to give to the world that keeps trying to throw down and turn against you when you all that you have. Sisters and brothers, you got to be tight knit with one another. There's just certain days where I overpay something, the count be negative. I don't even be mad. I get paid about a day because it's coming right back. I've gotten comfortable to the point, as uncomfortable as it used to be, where money always comes. So I'm not going to worry about it. I have bills on cycles in these particular dates. That happens. Now, things outside of the cycles, if I ever needed assistance, I know my brothers got me. And I won't ever take advantage of that because I rarely ask anything for them. So that if they know that I'm asking anything of them, they'll know that it's a serious matter. That's the comfortability I have within myself that I'm expressing on all you guys to have within yourself. Because if we're leaning on one another, we're calling each other's brothers and sisters, I would hope that you would have the same relationship span of, yo, bro, I'm not gonna lie. Give me like $1 just to even my account out. You have that example. You got, yo, bro, can you pull up with me this at this spot real quick? That could happen. You know? Go ahead, bro.
James chapter 1 and verse 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak,
Boy,
slow to wrath.
boy, that don't get talked about enough. Say it again.
Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear.
Swift, fast to hear. Listen, listen. To understand, not to respond. I promise you, your thoughts are not going to go anywhere. Just listen to the whole matter. Because what happens in context, I have to ruffle some feathers again. What happens is you'll listen to a couple of things. There's certain people that listen to a couple of things when they're listening. You'll listen to the tone, the delivery, how it was said, and incorporate, because we're going to talk about it, past experiences, memories that don't got nothing to do with the current situation, or instances that happened 5 minutes ago. All in a while trying to make past points to make present stances that don't exist. I'm talking to you. You do it. I'm talking to you. So, part of being slow to speak is gathering your thoughts to understand everything in its entirety, what was said to you, and give a response rationally, often expressed through emotion, without leading it to a conversation that can't get anywhere because you ruled out your rationality with your immediate response and reaction to what was said to you initially. Keep reading that part.
We're going to say in the spirit, and from our history up until this very present time, when we're teaching people, when we're speaking, like the swift to hear, he's speaking to Israelites. Like, who else could that possibly apply to when you really read it as to why he put that first of the three?
And we don't even hear like that, huh? Only we, from what I could like recall, dead ass. I only see black and Hispanics actually what and actually, and it takes them to say what for them to actually hear what you said. Like they hear what you say and then they say what and then they register what you say and respond. I don't see blacks and Hispanics doing that. Like if I say something to you right now and it don't register until you say what, like the what loads what you actually said in the brain.
That's yeah, that's
I only see blacks and Hispanics do that shit. Yeah, like what? And then it loads in your head because sometimes I don't know why, but it helps. It helps load what was heard. It's a thing, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath.
Slow to wrath. Boy, that last part I needed to work on, boy. I was I was trying to get busy every time. What? Every time I heard something left. What? Nah, you got. I took it to the extreme every time, boy. But it's something I needed to work on because I had anger. Because like there was times where like I didn't follow James to a T because in the moments of my immaturity and me being a child, I was like, "What the fuck? You said what? What you mean by that?" Now you get, you know what I mean? You come talk to, you know. But I had to grow out of that. Go ahead, bro.
For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God.
No, it doesn't. Go ahead.
Wherefore, lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness.
This is when I practice to put it away, because something about the Lord's words, it's a damn. That's how you feel about it. No, I gotta work on it. Something about how He expresses it brings conviction to do better within yourself because of how He describes it. Go ahead.
And receive with meekness the engrafted word,
Hmm.
which is able to save your souls.
Now, engrafting. You know what engrafting is? N-E-N. Let's just break the word down. For those who want to be super duper deep, let's understand the prefix en in graft. We know what graft is. Twining, putting together. For the doctor's orals with the kufi hats, where is this also mentioned in grafting? The children of Israel when they went astray. You notice all these terms can be used in the form of a tree. If all of you didn't catch it, stray, graft, and all of these can be personified in a sentence structuring or paragraph structure of tree details.
Yep.
Can't tell me God ain't the Godak being creative, or the lamb, excuse me, of being creative. Go ahead.
Verse 22. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving.
Doers, not just talking. Please don't be one of those. I'm just trying to keep the commandments. What the commandments consist of, bro? Break it down. Don't be. You know what should be inserted in here? I'm not gonna say that, but you know what should have been thoroughly broken down as part of this chapter right here? Let your short answers be like full of like extensive detail. Like, what is that entitled? Like, what does it mean? Just living, man. Don't give me cool, corny catchphrases of the world. What does that mean? Just trying to keep the laws. What does that mean?
Yo.
What does that mean? You ask any one of you ask me that, I'm gonna ask you what does it mean. So don't ask me that.
What's that?
I'm gonna ask you questions. I'm the wrong person you do that to. I'm gonna ask you questions. I'm the wrong person you want to ask it. Anybody who's spoken to me on the phone knows I don't. Boy, I'm gonna ask you some shit. If I hear that, I'm ripping whatever's hair's left on top of my head. If I ever hear that. But seriously, on a more serious tip, right? All of you, from what I've seen, majority of you, from what I've seen, has been in the school long enough to be more fluid in how you use your tongue to express what it is going on in your daily life. Every single one of you, from what I've seen in the school. If you have the ability to express yourself in moments of when you're not down and you're up, by all means do it. All of us come from different backgrounds and perspectives of knowledge and information to where we express things differently from one another. So sometimes when I come from the position of asking you to go deeper into what you're asking, it's only from a position of challenging you to go farther than what you're currently explaining. Because if I'm not going to do it, somebody in your personal life is going to do it. Like, I know you guys don't go and say, for the men in here, for the men, you men do not be going up to women and be like, I'm just keeping the laws, bro. Like, how you doing? Like, come on, bro. Like, because y'all know y'all. Let me just to put the humor backside on it. Men do not men talk to women according to their defenses would be according to what they currently have, how they speak, If you're Southern, you're more Southern. You lean heavily on your accent. I've been studying you guys. You lean more heavily on your accent and how you talk with the catchphrases and the phonics to try to pull the women over. Don't ask me how I know. I pay attention. Um, Women. I'm about to cook y'all up so crazy. Hold on. And it's only because I pay attention to both sexes. It's my job. It is literally my job. I love you guys enough to point out what you guys are doing. Women, on the topic of communication with one another. Besides the shalams that you give, how do I say this nice?
Can't be nice.
All right, to keep it talk, to keep it 100. To be, so this is talking about whether you're in a relationship or not. If you're a woman who's married, you put on a persona, or not even persona, you put on bits and pieces of your husband as far as the bondage and language goes because you're a representation of him. So everything that he does in detail of his personality, who he is, blah, 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 blah. Around the other brothers, if we're in attendance of greeting you or saying what's up to you, you are, to us, you're like little sis. Because the husband is there, you are a sister. For the single women, besides the shalom, there's a gray area of, this is what I'm seeing, of the Israelitish woman attendance on certain social media apps. There's like there's an elephant in a room of public display of righteousness, and when you get to the finer details of public display, there is a table of contents page, a character development that needs to be studied as far as doing homework on you when you go through the courting process. Because everything that's displayed in a public image, and this happens to a lot of men too, so I'm not even about to cook women up because I've noticed a lot of men are like this too. To the public image and display of what you are on the internet isn't actually replicated and reciprocated in who you are verbally and in real life. So, because I'm not the person who has a large media presence or social media presence to call you out and saying, you're not like that, bro. Like, I literally know you. I'm going to tell you that God sees you. So if you're personifying something that you're not, God sees you. You will pay for it. Especially when your usage and accountability of displaying something that you're not could have been used to saving another soul or being of use to contributing to the good use of the body. Uploading photos of throwbacks. Because let me get in case everybody, in case you're still lost. Uploading throwbacks, verses of the days. We're gonna get into it. Verses of the days. Uploading throwbacks, garments, um, and whatever have you, is very minuscule to the efforts that needs to be put in what's required of you in God's service. Especially being how you joined a group and collective of individuals who have a curriculum set in stone, and you're barely passing the attendance rate of that. But contrary to your public image, it looks as if you are. So to save you the trouble of all of that getting pulled down, you being embarrassing, and you personifying something as if you're not, don't build too much of a public profile and your private life is absent within the body. Part of that is James 1 and 22. You're not a doer because you're doing that. Go ahead.
James chapter 1 and verse 22. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any man be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass.
It's a funny analogy. Go ahead.
For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightforward forgetteth what manner of man he was.
Y'all know what that means?
So it's just an attitude of selfishness and doing as you please.
This is why I harp on change, because we read scriptures of what we ought not to do, and we keep forgetting of the analogy that God paints for us so that you understand why with do's and don'ts, the analogy gut punches you to change. Because by the analogies that come after what is required of us and what he tells us not to do, they should be disrespectful to the point of where you're changing, and you should be tired of hearing it. You should be tired of hearing you have to do this over and over and over again. You should be tired of hearing, oh yeah, we was the Israelites at that time period. We was the Israelites at that time period. We was the Israel. You got to be tired of hearing that. For since the late 1400s, we've been having conversation and arguments about with people who are misinformed about the history that were Israelites. Change the direction of conversation. Wake them the hell up and tell them to get their lives together. If they're misinformed, gladly teach them. But make sure you ammo that and fill up the clip completely to the point where it gets redirected to the point of them getting their damn lives together. Because behind all that information that they're spewing out, I can almost guarantee you they're doing something behind closed doors they're not supposed to be doing. It always happens. Find an organization outside of being an Israelite that isn't doing something behind closed doors, behind them spewing things contrary to the Bible. I'll wait. You got the perfect example of them Jews in Brooklyn, Islam, Christianity, and unfortunately, even the individuals who put on a persona of wanting to be an Israelite or acting an Israelite outwardly, but inwardly, they're a wolf. They're garbage. They're trash.
Don't forget the individualites too.
And those morons too. You're not any better than anybody just because you know that you're Israelite. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. You don't get points for knowing that. Nobody gets points for... Nobody gets points for knowing that they're an Israelite. I'm trying to tell you guys that. Like, you don't get... Like, you don't... Nothing changes. You know what changes? You know what grows? When you listen. When you follow what's commanded of you. You don't get any cool... I promise you, God does not give you a one-up. He gives you a talent. The moment you figure it out, here you go. Flip it. Flip it until I come back. If you don't know, you got instructions right here. You better use it to the best of your ability. Somebody buried it. He gave it to the person with the most and told him, get out my face. Talents need to be doubled, not depleted. Not split in half, not split in quarters, none of that. You got to read the room of certain spaces of opportunities. And really gauge is this fruitful or not in each and every space and opportunity that we're put in. What is this doing long term? Short term, okay, cool, but long term, what is it doing? Is it opening avenues and doors for opportunities for us as a collective or for individuals? The more you think like that, Watch how great this nation will become. Keep reading.
Verse 24. For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed.
Y'all understand that? Look it into the perfect law. Law. Say it one more time for anybody who think law done away with. There's a law. There's literally a law of liberty. Doesn't that sound oxymoronic? If it's liberty, why is it a law? It's not liberty, bro. It's liberty under the confinements of your creation, of you being created. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And what you do is you follow the confines of your liberty. That's literally it. Go ahead.
If any man among you seem to be religious,
Seem, looks. Okay, you got a couple fringes on him. Okay. Where your fringes? Keep going.
and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain.
What does that mean? What does that mean? A man who doesn't bridleth his own tongue. What does that mean?
If you can't control your own tongue, then your religion is basically vain.
Like it kind of parallels with hearers in the previous verse, because they would be the ones more of the talking and not doing more of the listening. And because they may be on the end of not being able to have the control that they need over their own mouths, their religion is worthless because they're not much of doers, they're more of hearers.
Good.
In the NLT, it says, if you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself and your religion is worthless.
Read that again.
In James 1 and 26 in the NLT, it says, if you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself and your religion is worthless.
I like that one. So everybody understand? Verse 27. Verse 27.
Verse 27, pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
We have one, two obligations. All in verse 27. And then that, actually three, from what we discussed in James 1 and the latter end, or the whole entirety of verse 27. Practicing the law of liberty, visiting the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep ourselves unspotted from the world. How do you keep yourself unspotted? Not indulging in your personal lust, sin, or any of the things God commanded us to stay away from. And to continuously follow exactly what we've all been discussing tonight. Any questions? So when y'all read Sarach 2, don't go in there and say your life is going to get harder, this, that, and the third. No. Sarach 2 is an eye opener. Sarach 2 is for those who've allowed situations to go as long as they can, and now you have to cut them off because you're wrong for even allowing it to get that far. And it's also opening the door for you to address why you even allowing situations to get that far in the first place. Sarach 2 is an eye opener to the relationships you've been holding on to, the particular ones to where you're not necessarily being 100% present within it, but you're forbearing and being passive in certain instances to where you're supposed to cut it off immediately, but you're still going through the motions of it for the sake of it changing throughout the end. Sarach 2 is also another eye opener for the individuals who believe that if you keep doing something over and over again, that the results will change. That's not what happens. Sarach 2 is also another eye opener to tell you that in every reaction that you have outside of what you're assumptuously going to think is going to happen, it's not going to happen that way. So continuously act accordingly with each and every embarking in your experiences. Sarach 2 is also another eye opener. You guys need any more examples?
It's about time we change our perspective on reading that.
Because Sarach 2 isn't anything about your life is going to get worse. Your life is from if you're waking up to Sarach 2, welcome. Here's what you need to fix. That's literally what Sarach 2 punched the shit out of me. Excuse my French. When I read it, Sarach 2 is a bunch of great. Here's what you got to do. What you been doing with that situation? Why? That's what God said. Cool. Did He say to do that? No, right? Go ahead and fix that the right way. You don't feel like doing it? You ain't got a choice. That's what Sarach 2 is. Why'd you do that with that situation? Didn't He tell you not to speak to her? Oh, you didn't listen? Are you enticing her? What are you? That was an order given to you. You didn't listen? Okay. So you put yourself in that situation because you didn't listen. And you want counsel on it because you, okay, adds up. So here's what we're going to do. You're suspended. We're going to get you out of here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's either you do this, that, and the third. Did you court her? How long did you court her for? Do you do homework on one another? How long you guys been talking? Is she emotionally absent? Is he emotionally absent? How much of their past experiences affect their present engagements with one another? Okay. You know why those questions don't get asked? Because we're in the heat of how we feel for the person rather than a long-term result of what it could possibly be. That's what Sarach 2 is. For another example. You know what Sarach 2 is also? Why spend all that money on that car? Now I'm paying a loan. I'm in debt. I should have just waited. I got it, but it don't feel fulfilling as it was thinking about getting it. I should have just waited. I should have just got something reliable all 4 seasons. That'll get me throughout the all seasons while I'm here. We all could carpool this and that, go on gas. You know what Sarach 2 is? What was this relationship built off of or built out of? Did we stay together because of the kids or did we stay together because we? Am I picking thorns on any of y'all sides yet? Let me keep going. What's this relationship? Why am I with this person? Why we get together initially? Let me think like in the present. Was this initially out of lust and we had to make it out of love for the sake of keeping the family and follow the law accordingly? And have to force ourselves to become connected for the sakes of keeping the law? Did I really want to? You want Sarach 2 again? Anybody want Sarach 2 again? I'll give it another one. Damn, do I really like this woman or do I want to fornicate? Do I really like this man or do I just want him just for the moment? This man makes me feel good. Wants to take me out on dates and stuff. This other man doesn't want to do this for me. This girl wants to cook for me, this, that, and the third. This other girl just wants. This girl's on my nerves, so. But this girl cool and stuff. Yeah, I'm cool with my rib, but she annoying sometimes. This other one cool. Y'all know what Sarach 2 is for? Do we have an idea of what Sarach 2 is for? To make you aware of what you're consciously doing. and to redirect your lives on the right paths of, excuse me, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be doing that. Why are you doing this? You see the standard now? It was never a get ready. It's Sarach 2 was never a get ready moment. It was never a get ready moment. It's to get your damn life together moment. Preparing your soul. It didn't say flesh, your soul. There's going to be moments in each and every one of you guys' lives that feels like your soul is being tempted and react in the way that it shouldn't. But you need to do right every single time. Questions? Any questions? How to regain that restraint when you are at the last moment on the brink of failure. How to regain strength? I like to tap into why I'm doing it in the first place. That gives like regains or recharges my strength to do it in the first place. Like I like thinking about what I'm doing it for, who I'm doing it for, and the standard I have for myself. That it just keeps me pushing. Like you have to think about why you're doing it. That why I got to be strong and consistent as much as possible. And even if you feel like you're losing strength, you have the ability to tap into your brain and be like, "Yo, I don't care. Let's go. Let's effing go. Let's keep moving. I don't care if you're tired. Keep going." Your brain will bully your body. That's when that fight starts. Even with situations, a lot of them. Granted, a lot of them are similar to what you presently feel, but they're not. They're not. They're past experiences for a reason. Stop letting what you've gone through hinder what you need to go through to grow. Let stumbling blocks be of the past, not in your present, because it's so predictable in your future, depending on what you meditate on. I think about what helps me as I think about the Bible all the time. If I don't read it, I think about it. And them thoughts, boy, you be surprised how long they take you throughout the day. Like, it be hours. Like, damn, I didn't even know I was thinking that long. If I'm not writing, if I'm genuinely not writing something down that's in my head and it's constructed in my head to a point where I write it on paper or I put it in my notes. And then sometimes I go back and think, why did I write that? I'm like, oh, and I keep going. Like I had a different title of this class, but I called it something else when I was speaking to Apayak about it. Because I was like, I don't want to call it that no more. You just have to stay inspired by who you speak to, who you're around, what you listen to, how much attention you give and stuff, how you take care of yourself. Before we even get to anything else that I just said, ask yourself, how are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? If you're not taking care of yourself, why aren't you taking care of yourself? Start with that question first. If you are lost and you don't know where you're at right now, you don't know where to go, ask yourself, are you taking care of yourself? And if you say yes or no, a lot of us are going to say no. Say why. Get to it.
Your flesh, your spirit.
Yes.
Your flesh reflects your spirit.
Yes. There's not a, I'm not going to lie, your flesh gives you the answer to every question you have about yourself. Nobody can sit there that they can't. Your flesh will snitch on you before anything. And it's what you need to work on. And if you break your moments of restraint, at least give yourself somewhat of praise of even getting to that point of practicing restraint. And as you develop and progress in that restraint by holding it on longer and longer and longer and longer, honor that because you're getting somewhere. Because there was a point where you didn't practice it at all. Make sure you document that mentally first and emotionally first too. Any question? All right. Rock, take us out.
This is Psalm chapter 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Yashiyah shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. In the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, the Wadah, the Yad, Amen.
Amen.
Amaj Shabbat. Amajim. Barak. Yahweh Shem Yahshua Barakatah.
Y'all about Shem Yashar Barakatam.